Joining us right now with his thoughts on whether he thinks that timeline has shortened is Virginia Senator Mark Warner. He chairs the Select Committee on Intelligence. And Senator Warner, thank you for being here. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Becky.
Antony Blinken pointing to this, but it really comes after comments from President Xi himself, just talking about how reunification is coming, and they'd like to do it peacefully, but they will do it by any means necessary.
Well, you've got these two autocratic leaders, Putin obsessed with rebuilding the Soviet empire, Xi being reconfirmed for another 5 years in the Party Congress this week, has been very clear that he thinks acquiring, invading, taking over Taiwan is his life goal. And I think we have to realize that while most of the world's focus has been appropriately on the Russia-Ukraine challenge, the circumstances with China, not only vis-a-vis Taiwan, but frankly in terms of the technology competition with China, I think that's the issue of our time.
I would say, what is our official policy on this? I know what our official policy is, but comments that have come from President Biden have confused and muddied the waters here.
I think the president, this is one of the ones where whether this is Joe Biden being Joe Biden or whether this was part of a grand strategy, I don't know. I do think it is made clearer. I think we clearly maintain the one China policy, but the president's comments at least have been more than a brushback against the Chinese.
It's happened more than once.
It's happened more than once.
So what do you think? Would we actually
I think you need a level of strategic ambiguity. What you do not have with Taiwan is that set of neighbors that will come to Taiwan's assistance the way there was with NATO vis-a-vis Ukraine. Obviously, South Korea, Japan, Australia, other nations in the neighborhood, but there's no kind of formal alliance that would be NATO-esque in that part of the world. Again, though, I'm concerned about potential military activity, but I'm also concerned about the notion that if Xi put an economic blockade around Taiwan, when we still are dependent upon Taiwan for every one of our leading-edge semiconductor chips. Now, we passed a law recently, the CHIPS bill, to bring some of that back to America, but in the interim, Taiwan's where all of the cutting-edge chips that we buy for any advanced material in this country.
I mean, are we getting close to the point of a Cold War in this situation with what we're doing with saying we're not going to allow chip sales or semiconductor equipment to be going back and forth?
This chips is not the first domain where are brushing up against China. I was a former telecom guy, and what was the wake-up call for me on this was 4 or 5 years ago with 5G, the next generation wireless, and Huawei, where you had a Chinese company not only dominate the field, a national security risk, but you also had China then setting the rules, procedures, protocols for that emerging technology. I think what we've got to do, and what I'm doing with the Intelligence Committee, which is the last functioning bipartisan committee on the Hill, is to say what are other areas where we cannot allow China to dominate. 2 areas we're looking at right now: synthetic biology and advanced energy, and all across the realm on the supply chain in both those fields.
So what do you do to stop them?
Well, I think what we may have to do in this country is it will not look exactly like the CHIPS legislation with massive amounts of government intervention, but I do think there needs to be an agreement, not just from the United States, but with friends around the world, where we cannot allow China to dominate these new emerging technologies. I think synthetic biology is one. I think energy, from fusion to supply chain around electric batteries. I think artificial intelligence, quantum computing. There's going to be a series of areas where we, with our friends, are going to have the government play a role to make sure we maintain the technological advantage.
What does that mean for international businesses, U.S.-based businesses that have operations in China?
I think if you are not having a plan B, then you're not being responsible. I know starting back in 2017, the Intelligence Committee went out and did a series of what we call classified roadshows, where we briefed industry sector after industry sector about both the intellectual property theft, the fact that China does not play by the same set of rules that we play by. And, at first there was some pushback. Post-COVID, we've done another half dozen of those. There's not a business sector in this country, including even academia, that doesn't realize that the kind of notion that the more we bring China into the world economy, the more they're going to be like us, just has not proven to be the case.